welcome. Let's understand this year 2019 why we should not celebrate Easter, or should it be celebrated? I went on and took a break from Illuminati to do a little simple presentation on Easter, and I pray that a lot of people take heed to this. If not, it's okay. But I just want to do a basic knowledge and just a little basic point of views of why we should not celebrate Easter. So go on, open up your spiritual ears, and let's get started. Alright, so when you look at Jeremiah chapter 7, 16 through 18, and Jeremiah chapter 45, 15 through 19, it basically says this: Therefore, do not pray for this people, nor lift up a cry or prayer for them, nor make intercession to them, for I'll not hear you. Do you not see what they do in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem? The children gather wood, the fathers kindle the fire, and the women knead dough to make cakes. Modern time hot cross buns is what we call them today. For the Queen of Heaven, and that Queen of Heaven that they were worshiping was the Queen of, I think it's EASTER, EASTER1, and EASTER1. One name, well, three different names, multiple names for this Queen of Heaven. And they pour out drink offerings to other gods, that they may provoke me to anger. Now, when you take a look at that, we already know that Father Joshua is speaking to Jeremiah. And he's talking about his own people at this moment in time. When they got off into these foreign lands, they began worshiping other gods and idolizing and doing some idolatrous and debauchery in these foreign lands. And one of these idols or goddesses that they worship was the Queen of Heaven, which some pagans call her Ishtar, some pagans call her EASTER, and some pagans call them Asterisk. Now, I could be saying this stuff wrong because I ain't good with pronunciation with everything. But anyway, this Queen of Heaven was being worshipped, okay? After Father Joshua simply told them not to go off into these foreign lands and get carried away and start worshiping. He even set out the 10 commandments for that. But of course, being stiff-necked and rebellious, they did just that. They went and worshiped these other idols. Now, why am I speaking about this Queen of Heaven? Well, there's a reason why I'm speaking about this Queen of Heaven, because this same Queen of Heaven is the same one we consider as Easter. Yes, I am breaking down just a little bit of the background of this Ishtar, Asterisk / EASTER idol in just a few moments. But here, let's read the second scripture. Jeremiah chapter 45. Jeremiah chapter 44, verses 15 through 19. It says, Then all the women who knew that their wives had burned incense to other gods, with all the women who stood by, a great multitude, and all the people who dwelt in the land of Egypt and Pathros, answered Jeremiah, saying, As for the word that you have spoken to us in the name of the Lord, we will not listen to you, but we will certainly do whatever has gone out of our own mouth to burn incense to the Queen of Heaven and pour out drink offerings to her, as we have done, we and our fathers, our kings and our princes, the cities of Judah and the streets of Jerusalem. For then we had plenty of food, were well off, and saw no trouble. But since we stopped burning incense to the Queen of Heaven and pouring out drink offerings to her, we have lacked everything and have become consumed by the sword and by the famine. Then the women also said, And when we burnt incense to the Queen of Heaven and poured out drink offerings to her, did we make cakes for her to worship her and pour out drink offerings to her without our husband's permission? So these people done got that stiff-necked toward Father Joshua to they're pretty much telling Jeremiah, who was prophesizing at the time and rebuking their idolatrous ways, we ain't finna listen to you. As a matter of fact, we gonna go by what we know to go by. Hey, as a matter of fact, ever since we stopped worshiping this Queen of Heaven, we've been having problems. At one time, we wasn't having problems. Now we're having problems. And so these women are pretty much saying to Jeremiah as well, shucks, we even make cakes for her and drink offerings, worship her. We even do stuff without our husband's permission because that's what she wants us to do. Feminism style. No submission to our husbands. So these people were pretty much getting out the way. Okay? But again, I read both of these scriptures to prove to you all that there was a Queen of Heaven that the Israelites should not have been worshiping, and by that name of Ishtar / Easter / Ashtoreth. You probably know it more out of the Bible by the name of Ashtoreth. But these pagans give her the name of Ishtar and Easter. So let's understand the differences between these two or the similarities. Now, with that being spoken, as you can see to the left of the screen, you have Ishtar / Istra versus Easter. Both of these pagan goddesses are goddess names for Easter. Okay, it's just that one pagan set of people gave her a particular name, and then another set of pagan people gave her a particular name. Now the Assyrians and the Babylonians called her Ishtar, and if you look to the left, it says so right there in that little black thing there. Let me see, just to go up a little bit here. It says that she was a goddess to the Assyrians and the Babylonians. Okay, and she was a goddess of sex and fertility. We'll discuss that in a few minutes. Okay, and as you can see down below the diagram there's a lot of names that she was called by. Okay, just to name a few: Aphrodite, Ishtar, Samaris, Nature, Great Mother, Queen of Heaven. Okay, so this being or this goddess, fixing my camera, was worshipped a lot, okay, by these pagan people, right? But the only thing about it is that these pagan people gave her different names, right? Fixing my camera. These pagan people gave her different names. Now, when you look to the right of the screen, you see where the Anglo-Saxons gave her the name of Easter. Okay? She was also the goddess of spring, and her symbolic image was fertility, sex, eggs, and the bunny. So if you compare these two, most likely we would say, if we were paganistic, to the right, that this idol would be more idolized in similarities to Easter more than the idol to the left. Now, Crystal, why do you say that? Because when you look at this idol, okay, people don't want to recognize this particular idol due to the fact that her symbols are the lion, the gate, and the pointed star. Okay? When the other idol really had the bunny and the egg. Okay? And this is the goddess Easter. Many pagans believe she is the real person behind Easter. She is a Babylonian fertility goddess who was resurrected from death in the spring. Now, does that sound familiar? Resurrected from death in the spring. Her consort was a hare, and her symbol was the egg, which symbolized fertility. This is the reason we give eggs on Easter and the origin of the Easter bunny. And we'll explain in just a simple sense in the next slide why is it that the bunny is considered to be Ashtoreth's or Ishtar's or Easter's consort. What is it about the bunny? We'll soon see that in a minute. She has been known by other names in history in Anglo-Saxon as Easter, in Norse as Easter, in Hebrew as Ashtoreth, and in Greek as Astarte. Again, I could be pronouncing them wrong. So with that being said, you all, the Babylonians still looked at this goddess as the goddess of heaven, or the East Ishtar. Okay, even though the next one seems a little more similar to Easter. All right, so I want you all to read this carefully as it displays itself on the screen. So, with that being said, let's understand the purpose of EASTER1. EASTER1 was a goddess who was resurrected in the spring. And when she resurrected in the spring, she brought life after the wintry seasons. So everything became anew and became in serenity. Okay? Because of the Queen of Heaven, Ashtoreth, or Ishtar, EASTER1. The reason of her friend, the bunny, pertaining to sex and fertility and eggs, is because of the simple fact that this bunny is like women. They have periods, right? And they have cycles. But with bunnies, they don't start having menstrual eggs be released and become fertile until they have sex. Unlike us women, we have menstruals every month and we release fertile eggs every month. Bunnies only do it when they have sex. And then it comes into showing the understanding of why the bunny is represented with this Queen Ishtar. Eggs are represented due to fertility, from what I've researched. It can be extra knowledge behind it, but I'm just giving you all simple, basic knowledge to understand the reason of this goddess and what was the purpose of her, this Easter egg, and this Easter bunny per se. All of this was pretty much pertaining to these idols and what they worship and why they worship. And as you saw how it all came into the purge of Roman Catholicism and Christianity. So that should be one main purpose of why you all should understand why we should not be celebrating Easter. Okay? Also, if you look up here at the screen, you should also understand why we should not celebrate sunrise service pertaining to Easter. All right? So when you look at Ezekiel chapter 8, verses 15 through 16, says this: Then he, Father Yahshua, said to me, Ezekiel, have you seen this, O son of man? Turn again, you will see greater abominations than these. So he brought me into the inner court of the Lord's house. And there at the door of the temple of the Lord, between the porch and the altar, were about 25 men with their backs toward the temple of the Lord, and their faces toward the east. And they were worshiping the sun toward the east. Crystal, what that got to do with us doing sunrise service? Open up your spiritual, logical thinking. If you are not supposed to celebrate Easter, which I'm just giving you basic knowledge right now, we're about to get deep. If you're not supposed to celebrate Easter, what make you think that sunrise that comes with Easter is supposed to be celebrated? Also, when you look at these books, even though I don't have my Bible on me, open up your Bible for yourself and read these particular scriptures. It's pretty much telling you that these people were worshiping the sun. They would go to the east, kneel down to the eastward direction, and was worshiping the sun. Okay, it's no difference than going and doing services during the so-called per se sunrise service for Easter Sunday. It is no different. Why do you think it's pertaining to sunrise service on Easter Sunday? Because that's another way of worshiping the sun, also in the collaboration of worshiping Easter. I know it doesn't make sense to a lot of us because we're so traditional and we're so spiritually blinded. But I'm trying my best to break down in biblical terms, also in logical thinking and knowledge of why we should not be celebrating this particular holiday along with others, which hopefully Father's will, he'll let me break those down as well. And also understanding that all of these holidays are man-made holidays. These holidays are nothing compared to what we're supposed to be in memory of, okay? And two of them that's combined into one of these holy days will be discussed right at the end of this presentation, what we really supposed to be celebrating. And it's going to help you understand how that particular holy day is compared to Easter. Then it's going to help you again understand, oh wow, if you open up your spiritual sense and understand why Easter should not be celebrated. Okay, now when you look at Deuteronomy chapter 4 verses 19 at the very bottom, it says this: and take heed lest you lift up your eyes to heaven, and when you see the sun, the moon, and the stars, all the hosts of heaven, you will feel driven to worship them and serve them, which the Lord your God has given to all the peoples under the whole heaven as a heritage. He do not want you to fall off into worshiping the sun, the moon, and the stars. Crystal, again, what the sunrise service got to do with it? We're not worshiping the sun. We're worshiping the fact that he was risen. And again, I'm letting you know, because you all are saying he was risen during the sunrise, that's false too. But we will be discussing that as we go along later in this presentation. Rising of the sun does not have nothing to do with the rising of our Father Yahshua. Nowhere near it. Which goes to show why we should not celebrate Easter. Okay? But let's keep going. Read carefully. So let's take note of why another reason which we should not celebrate the sun. Now, you all gonna think all this is a bunch of crap and all this is just stuff that the pagans do and Christianity is not socialized with it or associated with it. Yes, it is. If you put two and two together and you open up, you will see how this stuff is tainted the Christianity, religion, and holidays that man made that are celebrated. How it has tainted the truth compared to tradition and religion. Now, if you look at the other reason why we are not supposed to celebrate the sun, you will see that Romans celebrated something called solstice and the birth of the sun god on December the 25th. If you do not believe me, I know you can't believe everything on the internet. I know you can't believe all books and authors and scholars and transcripts. That's why I say, if you open up your heart spiritually and allow the Holy Spirit to lead you, he will lead you in the path where he can show you, even through extra biblical research, how this all pertains to religion versus truth. He will lead you to the correct links, because he's did it with me before. He will lead you to the correct links and showing you how this stuff is not pertaining to his truth. So with that being said, if you Google and go to certain things saying paganism and Christmas, or paganism and the birth of the sun god, you will find how Google does. They'll list a lot of links, and it might take you a little while to research through most of these links and figure out how they all collaborate with one another, or how one seems a little more factual than the others. You will see why we are not supposed to celebrate Easter nor Christmas. All of this is pertaining to a sun god that they worshiped back in their days. And the reason these holidays were brought into Christianity was because of the Roman Emperor Constantine coming into agreement with the Roman Catholics, church and law, hint, 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 coming into play in agreement with the Roman Catholics on what can be brought into the church. Oh, well, you all worship y'all God, And you all can take our sun God and pertain it to y'all's God, because y'all's God got similarities like our idols and some of the pagans that we're worshiping. So why not take a lot of these holidays, Easter and Christmas, and put it into Christianity and replace it with the one and true God that you all serve? They won't know the difference. Of course, Roman Catholicism, because they want such a leader as he, did such. Church and state law put together, hint, 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 NWO, New World Order. All right, in the future. So let's keep going. So with that being said, as you look onto the screen, you will see that the sun God's birthday was December the 25th, and it was called Sol Invictus. Okay, it was the worshiping of the sun. Some about after the sun had been shortened for so many days in the month of December, that particular day, the sun shined brightly, and it shined longer than any of the other wintry days and times. So they worshiped the sun, okay? And as you can see, it even says so in the middle that they celebrated the return of the sun on the solstice day. It was like a resurrection to them. After the death of the sun was darkened and cut off after so many days, this particular day it resurrected, per se, Jesus Christ, resurrection. It resurrected, and it shined so bright and it shined so long on this particular day, letting them know that the death of the wintry seasons was over. Okay, no different than this Easter goddess that they worship. Oh, she's the resurrection of spring. She was dead during the wintry months, and now she has come to life and brought serenity and life back into our lives with the spring of the seasons. Because we all know how it go. Winter is the cold, bitter, wintry seasons. Not bitter, but just cold. It gets dark early, you know. But when spring comes in, resurrection of all the winter is gone. The stuff brings back life and serenity, and it usually happens between the months of March and April, hint, hint, hint. And now the sun is ready to shine a little longer. But for these people, it was one day out the month of December in the winter months where the sun shined long for them, and it just stayed in the sky longer than it has any other winter seasons. What day that is December the 25th from what we see here, okay? That's the way they worship, right? So when you look to the right of the screen, it says the birthday of the sun is also the day that Christians consider this to be, per se, Jesus Christ's birthday. Why? Because of the tainting of what the Romans and the Roman Catholics put into Christianity and its so-called religion, okay? And then it also said between the days of 17th through the 21st, they provided gifts and merriment, etc., etc. What are we doing for Christmas, or what are you all doing for Christmas, for those who still worship it? Because I don't. It's a Christmas thing. It's a Christmas origin. Why do you think? What is the purpose? Just like the Easter bunny. What's the purpose of the Easter eggs and the bunny? I just told you. What's the purpose of Christmas being full of merriment and people giving gifts? It's telling you right here. This is what they did during their winter festival a few days before the sun god was worshipped, or the birthday of the sun was worshipped from his resurrection. This is what they would do. This was their way of celebrating this sun god's birthday festival. And take in, it's called Sun God. The Son of God is Jesus Christ, people call him. He was resurrected. The Sun God was resurrected. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Anyway, let's keep going, because I have a lot I want to share with you all. But take heed to the reason why these holidays are being celebrated and why they have been tainted into these Christian institutionalized churches that's full of religion and tradition and not truth. Okay, these two main holidays, Christmas and Easter, has gotten into these churches because of paganism, and because this is a way for them to replace and substitute their idols with the so-called Jesus Christ. All right. Now, we're going to understand Mardi Gras, Ash Wednesday, Lent, Palm Sunday, and Easter. Pay close attention and listen.
I'm Deacon Keith Fournier, the editor-in-chief of Catholic Online, here to speak about Mardi Gras. That period of time right before Ash Wednesday and the 40 days of Lent. What is it? Where did it come from? Mardi Gras goes back to Europe. And remember, Europe had deep Christian roots.
Now, you just heard what he said. He said, which he's a Roman Catholic Pope, as you can see, a Roman Catholic preacher. He said Mardi Gras goes back in the time of Europe. Hint, hint, hint. Who is the mother harlot of the churches that I spoke of in the Illuminati and that I've been throwing out here and there? Roman Catholics. Who are the daughters of the so-called harlot church? It was listed in one of my Illuminati presentations. If I'm not mistaken, it was either Illuminati Part 7 or Illuminati Part 8. Take heed and pay attention. You will see, if you all are following me, how all this stuff collaborates. Now, I just want to go back and you all hear him just, a few more words what this man said.
Where did it come from? Mardi Gras goes back to Europe. And remember, Europe had deep Christian roots. And the church was woven into European culture.
Oh, they had deep Christian roots, and the church was woven into European culture. Again, Easter and Christmas. I just spoke on this and how Christianity, this so-called institutionalized religion, was tainted by European culture through pagans and their paganism. And Roman Emperor Constantine ordained it to be so. Now, he just simply said this. And what a lot of people don't want to realize and take heed to is that these Catholics, these true blood-born Catholics, know more about our truth than we do ourselves. They know more. They know what they were supposed to worship. They know the reason of these holidays being worshipped and why they were mingled off into our religion or these so-called religions and has tainted the real truth. So that's why I was telling you all to pay attention and to listen to him, because he's telling on them. He's telling on them in how they call it plain blind sight. He's telling it. But people, because we're so mentally programmed and mindset to tradition, you hearing them, but you're not paying attention to what he's really saying. He's telling it. And I'm going to rewind it just a little bit. He just simply said it was woven from European culture. This Christianized, institutionalized religion that we don't even supposed to fool with anyway, but they don't want to tell you that. They know we're not supposed to fool with Christianity. It's like any other pagan religion out there. Because Father Joshua don't deal with religion. He said he deals with spirit and truth. But let me go on and rewind what he just said. I might be going back a little more, but just take heed.
What is it? Where did it come from? Mardi Gras goes back to Europe. And remember, Europe had deep Christian roots. And the church was woven into European culture. And people used to celebrate right before Ash Wednesday, because they knew that for 40 days we would enter into this period of fasting and abstinence to get ourselves ready for Holy Week, the Passion of the Lord, and the great celebration of Easter. And in particular, in France, Mardi Gras has its roots. And as the French began to colonize and came here, so too Mardi Gras as a celebration.
As the French began to colonize and come here, so did Mardi Gras in its celebration.
took root, particularly in New Orleans, but throughout the South. Even the particular aspects of the Mardi Gras, such as the use of masks, can be traced back to Christian roots. There were deep divisions according to class in Europe, and the mask made it possible for people to celebrate Mardi Gras together.
And the mask that people wear during Mardi Gras made it appropriate for people to celebrate together. I want y'all to listen to this man and see how he's trying to say that it's okay for Mardi Gras to be acknowledged and observed and worshiped even within this Christian institutionalized religion and tradition. Because that's what he's pretty much doing, you all. And I'm going to break down Mardi Gras, Ash Wednesday, Lent, Palm Sunday. I'm going to break that down in just a few moments once we're done with these videos. But this man is pretty much saying, overall, if you're really listening to him, he's pretty much saying that it's okay to enjoy Mardi Gras as a Christian. And it's okay to enjoy it even through Roman Catholicism. Why? Because it's all collaborated into their pagan traditions and religion. Okay, and if you all count, Mardi Gras and all this other stuff always happens before Easter, but it's still in collaboration with it, and I'll explain it to you in just a minute. It's most likely going to kind of explain it in the next video that speaks on Lent. That is not supposed to be worshipped neither, and I think a lot of Catholics do this along with some of the other religions, but let's keep going.
Irregardless of caste or class. Now remember, Christianity proclaims that we are brought together and there are no divisions among us in Jesus Christ. Similarly, the use of torches and fire have religious symbolism. But unfortunately, Mardi Gras, especially as we have moved away as a culture from God, has also become known to be associated with immorality and debauchery. And as Christians, we cannot participate in that. But can we celebrate Mardi Gras? Of course we can.
We cannot participate in the idolatry and debauchery, but can we celebrate it? Of course we can. What do we celebrate when we're celebrating Mardi Gras? If you're not participating in these debauchery activities, what are you celebrating? What do you celebrate when it comes down to Mardi Gras? We'll discuss that in a few.
Enjoy it, have fun. If there's a parade, march in the parade, but do so with dignity, because you are a Christian. Enjoy good food, and yes, a few glasses of wine. The psalmist tells us that wine was created to make men and women's hearts merry. So if you're so inclined, there's nothing immoral about it. Remember what we're doing. We're having fun. And having fun and being a Christian are not at odds with one another.
Now that part I do agree with. Having fun and being in the truth, you need to know how to balance out life. Okay, not dealing with this Mardi Gras. Only reason I'm stopping that because I can personally say I agree with that. Father Yahshua put us on this earth to learn to walk in his ways and in his truth. But I personally believe that he didn't confine us to go out and enjoy ourselves and have fun. Now, am I talking about going to clubs? No. I'm talking about going out and enjoying, going to the movies, going out to eat, going to do family fun and vacations, going shopping, doing the basic stuff, not going out here partying and observing with Mardi Gras, because you already know Mardi Gras is full of debauchery. Okay, they telling us one minute we're not to confine or paraphrase, we're not to intermingle ourselves with such things, you know, due to temptation. And I know some people are strong enough to possibly go to these Mardi Gras and not entertain themselves with that stuff. Okay, that part is not the reason I'm showing you all about Mardi Gras. I'm showing you all about Mardi Gras because it pertains to everything all the way down to Easter. Mardi Gras collaborates with Easter. Okay, but let's keep going. I do agree that we have to learn as truth believers and seekers how to balance out fun, but also how to be, you know, in respect to our reflection and image of our Father Yahshua.
One of the things we can do as Christians in a West that has all but forgotten God is to re-Christianize it. You see, it's been a part of the Christian approach to culture from the very beginning that when we are finding ourselves in a culture and among a people that have forgotten God, we don't wag the finger. We help them to find him again. And we look within that culture for the seeds of goodness. And then we baptize and celebrate even their holidays by giving them new Christian meaning. So let's re-Christianize Mardi Gras.
re-Christianize Mardi Gras and show these people how re-Christianizing Mardi Gras as we go off into their environment is a good thing. Okay.
Have fun. Enjoy your family and friends. And remember, the next day after Fat Tuesday is Ash Wednesday. May God bless you and your family in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Are you kidding me? So he's paraphrasing and saying it's okay to celebrate Mardi Gras. Anybody who knows of the celebration of Mardi Gras knows what Mardi Gras is about, right? We know what Mardi Gras is about. On the traditional Christian institutionalized / Roman Catholic way of looking at Mardi Gras, is called Fat Tuesday. It's the day where you get to enjoy and indulge in all the food and drinks and celebrations that you can, because next is Ash Wednesday, the day of repentance and fasting. That's the first day, Ash Wednesday, that brings about Lent that we're about to discuss. Ash Wednesday is when they take ashes from these palm trees that they acknowledge during Palm Sunday. They take ashes for these palm trees and burn them, so that on Ash Wednesday they put the cross on your forehead. And this is the first day of Lent, where you have to get ready and fast for 40 days and 40 nights, like the Son of Man, Messiah, fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. So Mardi Gras gives you all this time to indulge and have fun and eat and drink to the fullest. Because when Ash Wednesday begins, which is the first day of Lent, you have to fast away for 40 days and from 40 nights from all your weaknesses of indulgences and enjoyment and merriment. Because now this is a time to get ready to humble yourselves for 40 days and for 40 nights. Because sooner or later, 40 days after this memorial of Ash Wednesday and Lent and Palm Sunday, because the reason they celebrate Palm Sunday is because it represents when the Messiah came into Bethlehem on his donkey, and they had the palms and they was rejoicing and bringing him in with the palms, okay, the palm trees. That's the purpose of them worshiping Palm Sunday, okay. And all this stuff that's going on, the Mardi Gras, the Ash Wednesday, the Lent, the Palm Sunday, all this stuff happened and was a countdown before Easter. And we already know what Easter is and why they celebrate Easter. So Mardi Gras is enjoy, indulge, be careful with it though. It's okay to do it now. But enjoy and indulge, because the next day, which is Ash Wednesday, is the high day to Lent. And this is when we put the ash on your forehead. You got to get ready to repent and fast for 40 days and for 40 nights. Now, let's get ready to understand Lent. Okay, it breaks it down a little more about Lent. I'm just giving you some basic understanding how all this correlate down and connect with Easter. All right, here we go.
Lent is a season of repentance, prayer, and fasting. The season lasts for 40 days, beginning with Ash Wednesday and ending with Easter. The season reflects the 40 days Jesus spent in prayer and fasting in the desert before starting his public ministry. Lent is also observed by many other Christian denominations. Lent begins the morning after Mardi Gras or Fat Tuesday. Mardi Gras was traditionally a day of reasonable indulgence prior to the beginning of the 40-day period of prayer and fasting. The morning after is Ash Wednesday, a day when Catholics engage in prayer and fasting and attend Mass to receive ashes on their heads as a sign of penance. Ash Wednesday is the first day of Lent. Resistance to temptation is an important spiritual exercise practiced during Lent. Many faithful will make a Lenten sacrifice, giving up something dear for the 40-day period so they will become capable of filling themselves with Christ instead. In addition to giving something up, others may take on additional responsibilities, chores, or penances. Fasting is standard practice. In simplest form, Catholics will fast by abstaining from meat on Fridays. Fish is permitted as a substitute. Few people actually skip meals. Instead, they substitute fish or vegetarian dishes on Fridays for meat dishes. It is common for some to dine in restaurants on Fridays instead of preparing the meal at home. Restaurants often serve clam chowder and fish on Fridays to cater to Catholics. However, the piety of these events is dubious, since people are making only a marginal sacrifice by going to restaurants, and they are not genuinely fasting at all. Regardless of how a person chooses to keep their Lenten fast, the practice is regarded as highly personal. It is generally inappropriate for others to judge the piety of another's practice. It is also inappropriate to make a contest of one's piety. Sundays are not part of the Lenten fasting period. Instead, Sundays are accepted because they are celebrations of the resurrection of Christ. Each Sunday is a mini Easter. Therefore, it is appropriate for people to partake of whatever they may have given up for the 40 days of Lent.
So, during this Lent time, each Sunday, it's okay to not fast because these Sundays represents the resurrection of Jesus Christ per se. So it's okay not to fast on Sundays. Okay, plus they look like mini Easters during this Lent time and memorial. So here it is, we got Mardi Gras. You can eat and indulge and enjoy all that you can, because you know after you do all that, that's the purpose of this debauchery that they do during the celebration of Mardi Gras. And the Roman pastor made it plain and simple. It's okay to, you know, observe it and be in the midst of it so we can show them how to re-Christianize it. But this Mardi Gras, it's okay to indulge and enjoy yourself, because after that, after you get finished indulging and enjoying yourself and being merry, the next day, which is considered Ash Wednesday, when we put this ash across your forehead, that's the high day to Lent. You got to get ready to be in penance and fast and repent for 40 days. And during those 40 days, Palm Sunday is going to happen, and then we got to celebrate him coming in and being welcomed into our lives as the Son, as the Son of Man, the Messiah. And we're going to worship him with these palm branches, because in a few days, he's going to die for us and be resurrected for Easter. For the Easter celebration. Now, do you all see how all this correlates into one? If you don't see or you don't get what I'm saying, I don't know how else to break it down. But all this correlates into one. Mardi Gras has something to do with indulging and enjoying yourself all the way from that time until the time of repentance and fasting for 40 days and 40 nights like the Son of Man did, until his death and resurrection, which is Easter. Alright? So Mardi Gras, for some particular reason, correlates with Roman Catholics, and they feel like it's okay to do such because this is a time where you can indulge and eat all you want, do whatever you can before it's time to sit down and repent and behave yourselves for 40 days and for 40 nights and get ready to acknowledge his death and resurrection, which is Easter. Do y'all see how this correlates? Do y'all see how this don't make any sense? Do y'all see how this ain't got nothing to do with Father Yahshua in spirit and truth? This is all just religion and tradition and man-made fun. Alright? And it all comes from Europe culture, where Roman and Catholics dwell, along with a lot of those pagan worship goddesses that we're talking about. Alright? Again, if you heard him in that first video, he was pretty much telling us his truth, but he was trying to sugarcoat it. Alright? And if you want to, you can pause my video and rewind and look back at his video and listen to him out. Hear him out on what he was saying.
For example, the child that gives up sweets for Lent may freely partake of them on Sundays during Lent. Special prayers are offered during Lent. The Stations of the Cross, which follow Christ from his condemnation to his entombment, are practiced as a form of devotion. Some Catholics pray the sorrowful mysteries of the Rosary instead of the traditional joyful mysteries on Sundays during Lent, but there is no official rule, and Catholics are free to pray whichever mysteries they choose. The colors of Lent are purple, which is the traditional color of penance and mourning, as well as the color of royalty, which symbolizes Christ's status as our King. The last week of Lent is known as Holy Week, and it begins with Palm Sunday, 1 week before Easter. On Palm Sunday, the faithful recreate Jesus' arrival in Jerusalem by welcoming him.
Now, pay attention to what he's saying about Palm Sunday, and I'm going to rewind it. But I want to show y'all something. I want to show y'all how this evil, wicked, worldly system correlates and it's befriending one another. Now, I want y'all to take a look what they doing this Palm Sunday. I want y'all to take a look at these two people that's in the background behind the so-called Jesus. Other than that purple they got on, what the freak they look like they representing? Now, if can't nobody pick up what I'm saying about those two particular men that's behind the so-called Jesus, you ain't got no common sense. Because when I first saw that, I said, what the? Tell me what that look like that's correlating to. Look at the uniform. Look at what they wearing. That's Ku Klux Klan style. Ain't Ku Klux Klan the same ones that burn crosses and say that they doing Jesus work to get rid of the black folk and any other type of minorities that they are prejudiced against? Do you all see what I'm talking about when I say how all this stuff collaborates into one? But if you ain't paying attention and open up your spiritual insight, your mind is set and programmed to blindness. When I first saw, maybe the first or second time when I replayed this video, I said, I said, why is these people Ku Klux style? That's Ku Klux Klan style. And then I got looking at some of the videos that I saw and some more documentaries that I'll be showing you all soon, that Ku Klux Klans wear these crosses on their necks, burn crosses, and say that they're doing, per se, Jesus' work. Are you serious? And then when you look at these people during this month of March and April, they're worshiping Mardi Gras, Ash Wednesday, Lent, and Palm Sunday. And during Palm Sunday, the so-called Jesus, right at the time of Easter when he's getting ready to, per se, be crucified, you got these people in the background with the Ku Klux Klan style in purple, which is supposed to represent loyalty, carrying these so-called crosses in demonstration of Jesus Christ's crucifixion. Do you all, again, see what I'm talking about when I speak on this here, how all this evil wickedness collaborate with one another? This is crazy. Father Joshua in the spirit showed me that as I was looking at the video. Like I said, I think it took me twice to look at it and realize it, and he said, take a look. And I looked back there and I said, what the world is that? I said, it looked like the Ku Klux Klan style. And it is, it's the darn Ku Klux Klan style. It's them literally taking the knowledge of Easter and the crucifixion, but that's look at the Ku Klux Klan style now. I want y'all to pay attention to that. And even some of the Roman over there in Rome where they do some of those certain parades, I think if I'm not mistaken, you got some of them people dressed up Ku Klux Klan style. Again, think about how Ku Klux Klans wear their crosses around their stupid looking robes. Think about how they burn crosses and swear up and down they doing Jesus work. Y'all, this stuff collaborates with one another. I'm telling you now. Give me a minute, I'm fixing my camera. Alright, let's keep going.
With blessed palms. Often the priest or a volunteer from the congregation will play the part of Jesus in a ceremonial procession. On Holy Thursday, the Last Supper is celebrated. On Good Friday, the trial, suffering, and crucifixion of Christ is commemorated. Easter Sunday marks the end of Lent and the beginning of Easter. To learn more about Lent, visit Catholic.org. And if Lent inspires you or someone you know, shop for Lenten items at CatholicShopping.com for a one-of-a-kind shopping experience. Don't forget to subscribe to
Alright, so understanding Mardi Gras, Ash Wednesday, Lent, Palm Sunday, and Easter. All that stuff collaborates together, okay? Together, alright? I know a lot because I didn't know it myself until I started researching and getting the understanding of Easter. But I was shocked when I realized, especially Mardi Gras, how all this stuff correlates all the way to the countdown of Easter. Again, Satan's wicked worldly system has had us blinded for centuries. And believe it or not, these Bible scholars and these Roman Catholics, these people know more knowledge about the truth than we do. But they have kept it hidden from us through their paganism and a Christian institutionalized religion. They know the days that we're supposed to worship. They know the holy days we're supposed to observe. They know this. They even know that Father Yahshua is a black man, which we'll talk about that soon in the presentation I'm collaborating and coming up with through the Holy Spirit. But these people know more about our truth than we do. I'm sitting here telling you now, these Catholics, if a real true blood-born Catholic, Pope, pastor, will sit down and talk to you, they will tell you the truth. You just have to listen to them. Now, with that being said, if you ever want to take a look at this yourself, you look to the right of the screen. This is the link that you go up under to look at this stuff. And not only does it speak on those particular holidays, they got other holidays that the Roman Catholics worship. It's some more listed, and it breaks down in little videos what they're about. That's if you want to take a look and understand the purpose of these Roman Catholics and their worship. Not to indulge in it, but to understand it and get knowledge so you can be aware of it. Now, when you look to the right of the screen, here's another link. Now, this link, I'm going to read some stuff coming off the website pertains to why we should not celebrate Easter. It's pretty much what we're talking about now, and it's pretty much what I'm going to be talking about later on in this presentation. Let's get it open here. Again, I am recording live, so if there are flaws in this video, please excuse my flaws and deficiencies. Alright, so let's get started here. So this particular website called VanguardNGR.com, written by Femi Arabisala, whoever this person may be, explains why we should not be worshiping Easter. Okay? Excuse me. So I'm going to scroll up and get ready to read some of this stuff here. And it says most Christians are unaware that Easter is a pagan festival superstitiously merged with Christianity. So this author or this writer gets ready to break down what they're talking about when they speak on this, right? I'm not going to read it all. I'm going to just read some pinpointers here. Okay? Now, as you can see, it simply says right here, Easter is not a Christian holiday, okay? It says Easter is not even scriptural, okay? That word don't even exist. Somehow it got into the King James Bible, and they say you can look in Acts chapter 12 verse 4 where it substituted the word Passover, because we're about to talk about that in a minute. But it says Easter ain't even it's not even a scriptural verse pertaining to Easter. Okay? It explains how it was appeared in the King James Version of the Bible and certain Bible translations. But just giving you the introduction that Easter is superstitiously a holiday that was merged into Christianity. Now, I want y'all to pay attention to this right here. We were just talking about it at the beginning, the Queen of Heaven. This right here, Queen of Heaven, right? Now, reading some pen pointers, she said it again, or he or she said it again. Most Christians are unaware that Easter is a pagan festival surreptitiously merged with Christianity. It says Noah's son Ham, right here. It won't let me highlight it. But it says Noah's son Ham married a woman called Ashtoreth. Okay? It says in some cultures, Ashtoreth is called Ishtar, which is transliterated in English as Easter. Ashtoreth made herself the queen of heaven, the goddess of fertility, and became an object of worship. Later on, she was camouflaged into Christendom as Easter. Okay? Now, she goes on to talk about, right here in these next few paragraphs, how it was forbidden to worship this Ashtoreth. Per se, God even says the women need dough to make cakes for the queen of heaven. We just talked about that at the very beginning of the presentation. Who was he talking about? He was talking about this queen of heaven, Ashtoreth, Ishtar. Okay? Why do you think he was talking about that? Because he was already knowing that people was going to celebrate it as Easter in the future times. So he was trying to tell his people, okay, do not take knowledge of this idol or goddess or any other idols, because he already knew that in the future, which is us now, up until this day, we was going to celebrate this stuff. And I'm saying we as in human terms. I'm not talking about myself. I'm saying we in this humanity, humankind, mankind, was going to celebrate this particular holiday and turn it into Easter. He already knew that his truth was going to be tainted. Right? Now, let's go on. Like I said, I gave you the link to go to. You can go to that link right there at the top and you can read all this yourself. Right? Fixing my camera. Now let's go on to sun worship. Alright? So when we look at sun worship, it says Ham and Ashtoreth gave birth to a son called Nimrod. We already know that Ham was Nimrod was one of Ham's children. Look at it in the biblical scripture. That's in Genesis. Okay? It never gave us the baby mama's name, as I call it. It never gave us the baby mama's name. It just told us that Ham had a son by the name of Nimrod. Okay? Now, check this out. For anybody who's listened or looked at my Illuminati studies, I'm going to show y'all how I keep trying to tell y'all this stuff collaborates with one another. Now, if I'm not mistaken, it's either in Illuminati Part 1 or Illuminati Part 2. It talks about how Ham ended up sexing his own mother and producing Canaan. Guess what? That same generational curse took place right here in the second paragraph. Says so right here. Ham and Ashtoreth gave birth to a son called Nimrod. After Ham's death, what did Nimrod do? Nimrod married his own mother, okay, which was Ashtoreth, and became a powerful king of ancient Babylon. Alright, when Nimrod was killed, Ashtoreth, the mama, his mama / his baby mama to him now, deified him as a sun god or a life giver. Indeed, Easter means movement towards the rising sun. Again, another reason why we should not celebrate sunrise Easter services, and another reason why Easter shouldn't be celebrated from the jump. Okay? It pertains to the religious rites of people who worship the sun and the signs of the heavens. Okay? So again, understanding why we should not worship sunrise Easter services and why we should not celebrate Easter. Okay? Now this is not the only reason we shouldn't. We already learned now that this is just totally paganism. Okay? But let's keep going. Alright? And again, it explains the sunrise services that we just talked about. Now, let's check out the hot cross buns. Now, I know y'all saw a picture of my little hot cross buns I had in the beginning of the presentation. That he was talking about was pertaining to the baking of the cakes for the Queen of Heaven. In our modern day time, we call them hot cross buns, right? It was saying here in this little paragraph, these small sweet buns are usually decorated with solar crosses made of white icing. They were consecrated in ancient Greece to the goddess of the sunrise. In ancient Babylon, the buns were offered to the Queen of Heaven, the goddess of Easter. So for those people who are so caught up in this Lent, Ash Wednesday, Palm Sunday, Easter, some people, not all, some people in some religions make these things called hot cross buns around Easter time. This is why you should not celebrate it. He told them back in the days, they make doughs, they bake cakes for this Queen of Heaven. People still doing it. Even if we call them hot cross buns. Why do you think they call them hot crossed buns? This is a way of pertaining to the Easter tradition, which was forbidden in the biblical scriptures. Okay? Understanding pagan Lent. Let's keep going. After the death of Nimrod, Ashtar or Ashtoreth gave birth to Tammuz. A son she claimed was Nimrod reborn. Tammuz, the letter T, that cross. Yeah, I said it. Because Father Yahshua wasn't hung on the cross. He was literally accursed by being hanged on a tree as a curse. You know, not saying he was cursed, but you know, he died for our sins. Or was lynched for our sins. But this Tammuz, the letter T for the word cross, was killed by a wild boar, as they say. Ashereth instituted an annual ritual of 40 days of mourning for Baal worshippers. This pagan tradition of weeping for Tammuz is especially prescribed in the scriptures. And it goes to show right here in Ezekiel chapter 8, verses 13 through 14, that they were worshiping Tammuz for 40 days of mourning when he was killed. It says so in Ezekiel. Turn again and you will see greater abominations that they are doing. So he brought me to the door of the north gate of the Lord's house, and to my dismay, women were sitting there weeping for Tammuz. They were weeping for Tammuz in the substitution of Ashtoreth. Why? Because they worship Ashtoreth. So why not replace their mourning for Ashtoreth for the mourning of Tammuz? The pagan Lent, 40 days, people mourned and repented and fasted. Roman Catholics got you thinking that you're doing this because it pertains to the 40 days of Father Yahshua, the Son of Man, fasting in the wilderness. That ain't got nothing to do. Lent ain't got nothing to do with that. Lent got something to do with all this other stuff pertaining to this paganistic ritual called Easter. And Father Yahshua was forbidding these people not to do such. That does not have nothing to do with his 40 days of fasting. Nothing near it. So this Lent and this Ash Wednesday that they doing, that's got something to do towards this pagan ritual that was forbidden in the biblical scriptures. You ain't got to believe it. You don't have to believe it. But again, if you open your eyes spiritually, you will see how this stuff collaborates with one another. Again, Father said, worship me in spirit and in truth. He didn't say worship me through the morning of 40 days and 40 nights of my fasting. He didn't say worship me through hot cross buns. He said worship me through spirit and truth. Let's keep going. It says right here, nevertheless, weeping for Tammuz has been absorbed into Christianity by the institution of Lent, a 40-day period of fasting and prayer observed in some Christian denominations as a prelude to Easter. Lent is not scriptural. It does not exist in the Bible. Okay? Ash Wednesday is not scriptural. It does not come into the Bible. Okay? It says the ashes that they put on these people's foreheads now pertain to the idolatry of being the seed of the Indian fire god Agni. deemed to have the power to forgive sins. What was they doing for Ash Wednesday and Lent? Repentance, fasting, and penance. Forgiveness of sins. See how they sit here and they substitute their paganism with the truth, or with what Christian people call him, Jesus Christ, and his way of forgiving of sins, and his way of mourning. And well, his way was not a mourning. His way was just a fasting for 40 days. Do you see how they took this religious idolatry tradition and have mixed it and tainted it with the truth? Not with Christianity and religion, because Christianity and religion is paganism because of this right here. But you see how they've taken it and substituted it with the real truth of his word? If you all read his word, you will see that none of this is in his Bible other than being forbidden from it. None of this is in his Bible that we're supposed to worship. You don't see it in the New Testament. You don't see it in the Old Testament. You don't see it nowhere in any of these books where he's particularly talking about this. People don't want to read the Old Testament because they feel like, oh, the Old Testament was for the people back. No, if you cannot understand the New Testament without the Old Testament. If anybody disagree, that's fine. But after I sat down and I read the Old Testament and correlated it with the New Testament, you can't understand it. You wouldn't understand why Jesus per se walked the earth and he was trying to fulfill his commandments. You're not going to understand it if you can't understand the Old Testament. So with that being said, do you see any of those in his Old Testament, or let alone the New Testament of the Bible? No, you don't. Then it goes on to talk about the Easter egg, which is the goddess for fertility. It gets to explaining about the egg. It says Queen Ishtar was apparently hatched from this egg. This moon egg was called Ishtar's egg, which became in Christendom Easter egg, okay, which represents fertility. All right. Then it gets to talking about the shifting of the dates. I want to kind of skip that to go down to what I want to do, to what I really want to read. But if you want to go back, read the shifting of the dates, because that makes sense too about what she or he said. All right, because it was saying, especially right here where it says Easter is celebrated on the first Sunday after the first vernal equinox full moon, because it doesn't go by the dates as he or she was saying. Easter usually falls on different dates from year to year, because just like our birthdays stay, if my birthday May the 10th, it stays May the 10th. But this Easter dates always changes because it goes by some moving of the moon, another way of celebrating astrology, celebrating the host of heaven. Okay, but let's go on to Good Saturday. It says Good Friday is also a misnomer. Jesus was not crucified on Friday. We're about to talk about that. The week in which he was crucified contained 2 Sabbaths, and he was crucified on a Wednesday. I know it sounds confusing, but I promise you we'll be talking about that in a few. The following Thursday was a high Sabbath, the first day of unleavened bread. This is what we're supposed to listen to. This is what we're supposed to acknowledge. Not no Easter. Okay? But we will talk about that in just a minute. Just bear with me. Jesus per se did not resurrect on Sunday. He resurrected on a Saturday, which was a regular weekly Sabbath, different from the high Sabbath of the preceding Thursday. We will talk about this. I'm just reading this to you all because I'm letting you all know in the future, or in just a few moments, you will see what this particular writer was talking about. Okay, that's why I wanted to read this. Because Yahshua, Jesus, that y'all call him, might have resurrected on a Sunday from religion, because again, Jesus is not even his name. So this Jesus that people are worshiping comes from Roman Catholicism. Father Yahshua, the Son of Man, because again, I look at him as 2 in 1. He didn't resurrect on the Sunday. He resurrected on the Sabbath day, the day that we're supposed to acknowledge, which is a Saturday. And a lot of people still don't want to believe that Sabbath is a Saturday. But again, even the Bible scholars and the Roman Catholics know that Sabbath is pertaining to Saturday. But I would leave that alone. Father Yahshua is about order. He does things in a particular order for a particular reason, because it sets him apart from this religion tradition that we have learned in this wicked worldly system. So when he does things and sets them in order, it's for a particular reason, right? Sabbath day, set apart, spoken of in Genesis, a day of rest, set apart is holy. All of a sudden, coming to the truth, you realize that Father Yahshua died on a particular day and was resurrected on Saturday, the day of the consecrated set day, the day of rest. Okay, let's keep going. Even she said it, or he, I want to say she. But Christians should realize that from Friday evening to Sunday morning does not constitute 3 days and 3 nights in the grave. It only does a 1 day and 2 nights. See, already right there should be an eye-opener for people who are listening right now. It should be an eye-opener that 3 days and 3 nights that he's spoken of does not constitute Friday to Saturday. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's 3 days, 3 nights, because that's how we look at it. No. You all are about to understand his timing in just a minute. That does not add up to 3 days and 3 nights. Him dying on Friday evening and being risen on a Sunday morning. All tradition and blindsidedness. Now, the reason of the Sunday thing was to simply be a continuation of the Babylonian tradition. Nimrod was ostensibly resurrected on the Sunday, a day devoted to worshiping the sun. So with that being said, this is the main reason why they want to participate in Easter being celebrated on the Sunday, because it's pertaining to Nimrod's so-called resurrection on Sunday. All right? So again, all the stuff correlates into one. And it's all dealing with paganism and religious tradition. It has nothing to do with spirit and truth. This is paganism and religious tradition, you all. And I know a lot of people don't like the sound of it, but it's so true. It is so true. But let's get ready to continue on here. And I want you all to read carefully what's about to be brought into play. Read it very carefully. Now it says this, Matthew chapter 12 verses 38 through 40. For as Jonas was 3 days and 3 nights in the whale's belly, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. Genesis chapter 1 verses 5, 8, 13, 19, 23, and 31. It says 3 days and 3 nights? Father Yahshua simply said that just as Jonas was in the whale belly for 3 days and 3 nights, so shall I be pretty much in the grave for 3 days and 3 nights. So it says to understand the cycle of three days and 3 nights, and in which days they were, you have to go by the timing of the Hebrew Israelite Jew calendar. And when I said that, I said, think about how when Father did creation, him and Yahshua, they considered the evening and the morning to be as one day. Evening was and morning was one day. I will explain that and try to show a demonstration in just a few moments here. But bear with me. 3 days and 3 nights. Friday to Sunday, that we have been traditionally taught, is not pertaining to 3 days and 3 nights. All right? Let's keep going. Now, there's a book that came from Tomorrow's World, when we was doing studies with them, because they're pretty good. They deal with a lot of end time prophecy and understanding the Sabbath. In this book here to the left, it is called Which Day is the, per se, Christian Sabbath. Okay? Now, it goes like this. It was a certain paragraph that I pulled out of this book that I want you all to understand. It says, some will argue the definition of the word day. But Christ, in which they still call him Christ, clearly stated there are 12 hours in a day. That's not including the nighttime. This comes again out of John chapter 11, verses 9 through 10, when Joshua said, are there not 12 hours in a day? Therefore, when Easter Sunday proponents take his remark and conclude that Christ was in the grave, 3 days times 12 hours only equals 36 hours. So you go to see that they are leaving out 3 nights. Okay? What is this writer saying? That there are approximately 12 hours of day, thus just like there are approximately 12 hours of nighttime. 12 plus 12 equals 24 hours in a day. So Father Joshua himself, pay attention, simply said in John chapter 11 verses 9 through 10, are there not 12 hours in a day? That's not including the night, that's just including the day itself. If there are 12 hours in a day, guess what? That means there are 12 hours in a night. Meaning, again, 12 plus 12 equals 24. Okay? So he says, so 3 days and 3 nights is definitely 72 hours. Because 3 days times 12 hours is only 36. So where's the other 12 hours at? Because he already said he had to be gone in the grave for 72 hours. So we already know 12 hours out the day is only 36 hours. Another 12 hours out the day will make it 72 hours. I mean, another 12 hours, which would be the 12 hours of nighttime, will make it 72 hours. Okay? He's on point. Father Yahshua's on point. It's just not us who's on point. So now we have to understand, what does he mean when he says 12 hours a day, 24-hour part cycle? There are only 12 hours in a day. What does he mean in a one-day time frame? Let's keep going. Let's go to Genesis chapter 1, where he simply says evening was and morning was one day. So let's go there right quick, just to get a preview. Alright, so when you look at Genesis chapter 1, this is the creation. You can see where it starts in verse 5. After he created certain things, he would always say, and the evening and the morning were the first day. And if you notice, he always put evening first, sunset time. So the evening and the morning were the first day. Well, when you scroll down to verse 8, after he's created some more of the earth, he says it again. And the evening and the morning were the second day. Again, it seems that Father Joshua is using evening as the beginning of his days. We use the morning. He uses sunset time. Alright, so the evening was and the morning was one day. Alright, go down a little bit more. He's created some more. Verse 13. And the evening was and the morning was the third day, etc., etc., for those who are Bible readers. So what is this saying? This is saying, let's remember, there are 24 hours in one day. 12 hours of morning and 12 hours of evening makes up a 24-hour cycle. Again, spoken of in John chapter 11, verse 9. Joshua himself said, are there not 12 hours in the day? Okay? 12 hours in the day, meaning by itself. So what about the other 12 part that pertains to the night? Okay? So when he says that from the rising of the sun to the setting of the sun is a 12-part cycle. From the rising of the sun to the setting of the sun. Well, what about the other part of the cycle? that will be considered the setting of the sun back to the rising of the sun, making up the other 12-part cycle. Okay? What are we saying? Literally from one rising of the sun to the next rising of the sun makes up one whole day to our Father Yahshua. So what I did is I tried to show you a demonstration of how his timing looks to him in his eyes. So the sun rises, the sun sets. The moon rises up for night, it sets. The sun comes back out. That's one day in his eyes. That's a 24-hour cycle. Of course, I'm still confused. Look at it this way. Say if you're a person who works a 12-hour shift, right? If you look to the bottom right of the screen, I tried to give you an example. Now, if you look, it says from 7 A to 7 P. That's 12 hours, okay? You're not done with a 24-hour cycle here. The other shift got to come in and finish making up the rest of that day. Am I not correct? All right, so that's when the evening shift comes in. From 7 P to 7 A, you got another set part of 12 hours. What's 12 plus 12? 24. So for one whole day, it's not considered to Father Yahshua unless it's from 7 A all the way to 7 A again. That's one whole day. Or because he likes to start his timing off in the evening. And you seen that evening and morning was one day. From 7 P when the sun sets all the way again when the sun sets again is a one day 24-hour cycle. Roman Catholics got us thinking as soon as the sun set, that's one day. I mean, when the sun set all the way to 12 midnight, that's one day. No, it's not. Not in Father Yahshua's eyes. Whether it's sunset to sunset or sunrise to sunrise is considered one day. But it's a reason why I said he looks at his time and being started in evening, because you can look at it from the biblical scriptures. Evening was and morning was one day. So he looks at his sunset to sunset is one day. Or pretty much for us, for 12-hour shifters, I'm just using 12-hour shift and working people because usually it's a 7 A to 7 p.m. shift or a 7 p.m. shift to a 7 a.m. But when the sun sets, 7 P, to when the sun sets again is a one-day timing to Father Yahshua. Now, that's the reason why I put this right here, because now we got to understand the timing of when he died and was buried, along with the day he died and was buried and then resurrected. It's the reason why I put this up here, because we need to understand his timing along with his day. Okay, so let's keep going. So I started biblical researching through my book, and we're finna look at John chapter 18 verse 28 and its notes, along with Mark chapter 15 verse 1 and its notes. Okay, now like I said, we need to understand the times of day when Yahshua was crucified, buried, and resurrected. And understanding from research biblical view, back in the New Testament times of the Roman Greek era, even to us for this day, we look at early morning ranging somewhere between 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. Okay, so because of Roman time back in the biblical New Testament timing, this is when countdown began for his crucifixion. Was somewhere between the hours of 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. Okay, the day that they literally had him on trial through the Pharisees and Sadducees, and trial through the Roman emperors. Okay, so that's when his countdown began, somewhere between 5 and 6 a.m. in Roman time, because Jew time is different, which we'll kind of explain it in simple terms in just a few minutes. All right. So with that being said, I took a picture of my book, of my Bible, to let y'all know which Bible in particular I used to study this. Okay. Now when you look at Mark chapter 15 verse 1, and I'm going to move my camera because I want to scroll so you all can see that there. when you look at Mark chapter 15, verse 1, what's the first thing it says? Immediately in the morning. This is when Pilate gets ready to put Joshua on trial. Now, when you look at the very bottom of the screen, you see where I have highlighted in red what early in the morning meant in Roman New Testament times, and even to us to this day. Just to prove to you all that these people, these Bible scholars, oh, they keep stuff hidden from us, but they also have stuff hidden from us in plain sight. You just have to read and study. So when you look at the bottom, it says at daybreak, probably between 5 and 6 a.m. is when they went to put him on trial, right? Because if you think about it, prior to him literally being on trial, he was arrested that night before. But through Roman rules and regulations, the Pharisees and Sadducees, along with some of these crazy Jews, knew that they couldn't literally put him on trial at night because that was just against Roman rules and regulations. So they knew that although they arrested him, they knew that they literally couldn't set him up for trial until early that morning, which again is somewhere between 5 and 6. And it says so right here, having illegally decided Jesus' guilt during the night. Okay, so they tried to try him guilty. Remember dealing with Judas, when they paid Judas that money to swap out and let him know where he was at and all that good stuff. They knew they literally couldn't trial him. They arrested him and pulled him in, but they knew they really couldn't trial him until early that next morning. All right, so with that being said, let me fix my screen here. Give me a minute. Just bear with me here. Bear with me. All right. So with that being said, we already know that early in the morning ranges somewhere between the time of 5 and 6, right? Now, when you look at John chapter 18, verse 28, along with his notes to the right, it says this too. Because don't forget Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, they talk about the same story, but some have more detailed information in their books than others. Now, John chapter 28 says this. Then they led Jesus / Joshua from Caiaphas to the praetorium. And it was early morning. Okay? And I want you to pay attention to this. But they themselves did not go into the praetorium, lest they should be defiled, but that they might eat the Passover. Okay? So even these Pharisees and Sadducees knew about the holy days that they were supposed to continue to memorialize. That's spoken of in the Old Testament about the days and the feast of weeks, the feast of tabernacles, the Passover, all that. Now, this is New Testament time per se, and they still observing it. I wonder why. I think because Father Joshua's word never changed. And he also said he did not come to destroy, but to fulfill. So with that being said, these Pharisees, Sadducees people, they observe the holy days. Not the holidays, man-made style, but the holy days. Right? Now let's keep going. So again, early morning pertains to what? Over here to the right of the screen. Let's see here. It says, most likely it refers to around 6 a.m. since many Roman officials began their day very early and finished by 10 or 11. Okay? Boom. If you read your Bible, you will see what they're telling on themselves. Scholarly, biblically. They're telling on themselves. But see, they know people ain't going to pay stuff like this no attention. They know a lot of people ain't going to dig deeper. They know to put it out there and hide it to us in plain sight. But they also know a lot of us ain't going to listen to it or read it. They know we're just going to go to church on Sundays. Moving my camera. Go to church on Sundays and just go by what the pastor say and let it be done. And don't study to show ourselves approval. A lot of them already know that we was going to do this. Okay? Humanity wise, okay? And boy, I know they hating people like us who are waking up the truth and trying to spread the truth in the gospel. Not the religion, but the truth in the gospel. All right, so now we know that somewhere between the hours of 5 and 6, that's when the Jews finally was ready to put them on trial with the Roman emperors, okay? So we know somewhere in between that time, they ready to start trialing them, okay? Between 5 and 6 a.m., right? Give me a minute. As always, just fixing my screen here. Alright, so let's go on over and understand just a little bit more. Now, looking at Matthew chapter 27, verses 45, looking at Mark chapter 15, verses 25. Now we need to understand, when did the crucifixion begin? Okay, and how long did it take before he finally shut his eyes? And then darkness came over the earth. So we already know the story of how he was scourged and beat to death. We already know this, okay? We want to understand the timing, because it's a reason to understand his timing, to understand the day that he died and was crucified. I mean, the day that he was crucified, died, and resurrected, okay? Now, when you look over here at Mark chapter 15, verse 25, and you see the subtitle, Jesus is crucified, okay? Starting at verse 24, it says, and when they crucified him, they divided his garments, casting lots for them to determine what every man should take. Now it was the 3rd hour, and they crucified him, okay? Jewish time says 3rd hour. We need to understand what 3rd hour means in our modern day time, right? So when you look over here to the little inscription below, where it says 27 verse 45, it says from the 6th hour until the 9th hour. What does the 6th hour until the 9th hour represents? For us in modern day time, that means from 12 to 3. What time did crucifixion begin? 9 a.m. Looking over to the right again, when did he get crucified? On the 3rd hour in Jewish time. Looking back over here, when did he get crucified? It began at 9 a.m. So what is the 3rd hour? 9 a.m. Meaning, 1st hour in Jewish time was about 7 a.m. 2nd hour was 8 a.m. By the 3rd hour, 9 a.m., he was crucified. Now, looking at Matthew chapter 27, verse 45, it says this. Now, from the 6th hour until the 9th hour, there was darkness all over the land. This is when Yahshua was crucified. They were sitting there crying and mourning. His true followers was sitting there crying and mourning over him, watching him suffer until his death. So, from the 6th hour until the 9th hour, there was darkness all over the land. This was right before he died, right? It already tell you what the 6th hour until the 9th hour represents in Roman time. 12 to 3. Now, if you look at my little diagram at the very bottom, you will see how I tried to break it down for you. The 6th hour is 12 p.m. The 9th hour is 3. But when you back it up on the 3rd hour, it makes it 9 a.m. Right? So, if you was to count backwards, that 3rd hour he was crucified, which was 9 a.m. Okay? That's the 3rd hour. He was crucified at 9 a.m. And then it says by the 6th hour, which was 12 p.m. in their timing, until the 9th hour, which is 3 p.m. in their timing, it was dark. It stayed dark. Remember? And then when he finally died, he said it is finished. That's when the earth began to tremble, the temple curtain began to split, etc., etc. But from that time frame, it's letting you know he was still living at that certain time frame until he finally breathed his last breath. So sometime after 3 p.m., he ended up dying. Okay, now again, pay attention to this because it's very important. The third hour he was crucified, which to us is 9 o'clock. That's when his crucifixion began. And before that, somewhere between the hours of maybe 5 and 6 was when Pharisees and Sadducees took him in to be tried. So from that time all the way up to 9 a.m., he was tried for a long time. Okay. Now, from that third hour, and I'm just repeating this so you all can understand it. From that third hour all the way up to that 12th hour, you got to think he was beat, scourged to death for a long time before he was finally crucified. Okay. When he was finally crucified and, you know, sitting there suffering, about 12 o'clock it got dark. 12 p.m. and it remained dark like that all the way to 3 o'clock. Okay. So sometime after that, he finally breathed his last. Okay. That's when he died, sometime after 3 p.m. on this particular day. Now, we need to know what day did he die so we can count up the 3 days and the 3 nights. We need to know what day did he die. Let's keep going. Stay with me. Stay focused. If you have to rewind it, I have no problem with that. But stay focused. We already got the timing of what time he done possibly died Roman time-wise. It was a little after 3, maybe right at 3. We just know from the 12th to the 9th hour, it was dark. And that's when he said, Father, Father, why have you forsaken me? So we know it wasn't literally at 3 o'clock when he died. It had to be a little after 3 when he died, right? Now, still looking at my MacArthur Study Bible, New King James Version. I want y'all to look at this because now we need to know what day did all this stuff take place before he was literally tried and crucified and all that good stuff. So when you look at Matthew chapter 26, starting at verse 17, look at the subtitle. The Passover is prepared. So we already know the Passover happened prior to his crucifixion, which we consider the Last Supper. That's what we consider, that big old picture with him and all his disciples sitting around, considered the Last Supper, which is really called the Passover, that is spoken of in the Old Testament times. Leviticus chapter 23 explains most of all the holy days. And the Passover, which we call the Last Supper, is spoken of. Now again, if we were not supposed to observe these things, why would Father Yahshua be fulfilling his truth? Because he said he didn't come to destroy it. He said that in Matthew chapter 7 verses 7, Matthew chapter 5 verses 7 through 8 if I'm not mistaken. He said, I did not come to destroy the law, but to fulfill it. So what was Yahshua doing, the Son of Man? He was fulfilling the law while he was here, helping people to understand it because people was getting carried away with understanding his commandments or either deleting them out their life or being stupid with them or putting extra to it. He was there to fulfill it while he was walking the earth during his ministry. So with that being said, starting at verse 17, it says this. Now pay attention. It says, now on the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the disciples came to Yahshua saying to him, where do you want us to prepare for you to eat the Passover? The first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread is literally considered the Passover. Why? Because as soon as the Passover is over with, and we're about to explain that in a minute, the Feast of Unleavened Bread starts as soon as the Passover is said and done, jumps in the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And so because it is that way, people just consider the first day of Passover just to be the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Okay? So it says in verse 18, Yahshua said, go into the city to a certain man and say to him, the teacher says, my time is at hand. He's talking about his time to be almost crucified and dying. I will keep the Passover at your house with my disciples. So the disciples did as Joshua had directed them, and they prepared the Passover. Verse 20 to the right. When evening had come, he sat down with the 12. It didn't say when morning. It didn't say when afternoon. It said when evening, when the sun set. He sat down with the 12. It's not Father Joshua, like I said earlier, about order. He is strictly about order because it sets him apart from tradition. So he does everything in order for people to understand his truth. And why? When evening had come, he sat down with the 12 to eat, to participate in this Passover day, or the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Okay? We all know what Passover means. For those who don't know, it represents the Old Testament times when they were brought out of Egypt. But right before they were brought out of Egypt, they had to put blood on the posts, so the death angel can bypass them or pass over them and kill all the firstborn sons in Egypt, other than the children of Israel. That blood represents when Joshua dies and covers for our sins, and it helps the death angel pass over us. Okay? That's why this particular holy day needs to be celebrated. Not Easter, not no Last Supper, not no every fourth Sunday communion, but once a year. He talks about this. And as you read it, the Lord's Supper instituted, he broke down about drinking the wine and eating the bread. They consider that communion every fourth Sunday because of Roman Catholicism, which deals with something called the Eucharist. That has nothing to do with us. He only wants you to acknowledge his Passover once a year. Not every fourth Sunday, because he don't even worship. His truth isn't even supposed to be on Sundays of a Sabbath rest. It's Saturdays. Do you see how all this is instituting into one? Truth versus religion? Do you not see this? Let's keep going. So with that being said, his disciples prepared the Passover for him. Evening come, that's when he sat down in participation to institute the Passover. He sat down and he broke bread with them and all, telling them what it represents. Passover, not communion, but Passover. As they call it, the Lord's Supper, the last day of supper. Passover was instituted yearly. Not every 4 Sundays, but yearly. Communion, and Father told me this 2 years ago, is pagan. And I said, Father, how? He told me how. He showed me. He told me it's called Eucharist, and it's because it's up under the Roman Catholic system, because his days are not Sunday anyway. His day to be observed is on a Saturday. He told me that about 2 years ago. You don't have to believe me. I really don't care on that part. But right here, to sort of show you why he said that and what the Sunday is pertaining to versus his Passover. Not no communion, not no Easter, and not no every fourth Sunday. Let's keep going. Now, when you look at Matthew chapter 26, verse 13, and looking at his notes, it explains to you when the Feast of Unleavened Bread and Passover took place. It also explains it to you if you got a study Bible. It explains it to you in Leviticus chapter 23. Through the months of March and April. What is March and April for us? Spring. What is it to the pagans? Spring and resurrection. Do you see how this is collaborating? March and April is a season of resurrection to pagans, while March and April is a resurrection season for Father Joshua, meaning January does not start his calendar. March and April starts his calendar. Somewhere between the months of March and April is when the calendar begins, because it's resurrection for him. Why? Because this is the same month he was crucified, buried, and resurrected. somewhere in the months of March and April, which also goes to show that somewhere between the months of March and April was his born day. Do we know what date? No. Do we literally know if it's March or April? No. But we know it was during the springtime. It has nothing to do with no Christmas and winter seasons. Because like I seen in the biblical research, how is it that the shepherds was out there feeding their flocks, and flocks was surrounded in certain parts of this time frame of Yahshua's born day if this was the winter season? Shepherds wouldn't be out with their flocks. It would be too cold for them to be in a manger in a shed somewhere. So that already goes to show that this winter time that this so-called Jesus was born is not true. Again, Father Yahshua, thank you Holy Spirit, is about order. Somewhere between the months of March and April he was born. Just like somewhere between the March and April he was crucified, died, buried, and resurrected. He is about order. It is to set him apart for who he really is, you all. Pay attention. So with that being said, it says in the notes, the Passover lambs were killed on 14 Nisan, somewhere between March and April. That evening, the Passover meal was eaten. The Feast of Unleavened Bread followed immediately after Passover, which the 15th was the Passover. The 14th, excuse me, was the Passover. Meaning the 15th started the day of unleavened bread. But some people like to just say that day of Passover is the first day or the first high day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Just like them Romans like to use Ash Wednesday as their first high day to Lent. See how they try to substitute and replace? Let's keep going. And of course, the Feast of Unleavened Bread lasted for 7 days, which was the 15th through the 21st. Okay? So, with that being said, why did he sit down and to participate in the Passover? Because he was showing us by law, fulfilling this law, that when when Father Yahshua them had them kill them lambs and goats, or whichever one it was, back in the Old Testament time, we already know that Father Yahshua represents the lamb that was slain. So why not in the Old Testament times? Those lambs' blood was covering those doors to keep that angel of death, which we consider sin now, from killing them, for killing their firstborn sons. That blood was covering them, just like it is now with us to this day. He was fulfilling that law by participating in this Passover that was done back in the Old Testament times. But he was fulfilling it in a way to say, I'm about to make things new. Because no longer do you have to go around killing animals and putting blood on your doors to allow sin and death to pass over you. I'm that new lamb now. That's the only law that he got rid of, was sacrificing lambs and animals for sin offerings. That's what he said when he said he came to make things new. Yes, I'm getting way above myself here. But yes, that's what was done away with. Not his 10 commandments, not his holy days, because he have came to fulfill them, to show us what he's about. The only thing that he came to make new was that we do not have to go through no priests, go to no temples. That was the reason of the temple curtain being split. We do not have to go to no priests. We do not have to go to no temples. We don't have to do any of that now and say, oh, we need forgiveness. Roman Catholics them still do that. Again, another killer aberration. Substitution, paganism, tradition, religion. They still got you coming to the high priest to talk to you about forgiving for the sins and letting him go and talk to, per se, Jesus Christ for you. We don't have to do that no more. Yahshua died for our sins, so we don't have to go through all that. Boy, there wouldn't be no animals on this earth if we had to continue to use animals for sin offerings. We don't have to do that. That's what he came to make new. We don't have to go through that temple stuff with the high priest and the Levitical priesthood no more. Romans still do that to keep people blindsided and thinking that, well, the laws are done away with. Yeah, Jesus died for our sins, but you still have to do it this way. No. Yes, we still fulfill his laws. Yes, we still observe his holy days. But when it come down to going to a priest in our modern day times and going to the temple or having to put blood on our doors, we don't have to do that no more. That's done away with. That's what's done away with. Now let's keep going. So these Passover lambs were killed, which represents the future crucifixion for Yahshua. Those Passover lambs were killed to be a symbolic of what was about to happen to Father Yahshua. Do you understand? They were killed. The Passover meal was eaten because it's a memorial of what Father Yahshua had to go through and go through for us. That's the purpose of observing this Passover up until this day. Not no communion, not no Easter, but Passover. And the Feast of Unleavened Bread starts right after the Passover. And when did I tell y'all his time begins? Pretty much from what he said biblically. From evening to evening, or from sunset to sunset. So, Passover started that evening before. Because it has to be one whole day. So that evening before, Passover started. All the way to that next evening, Passover ended. And as soon as Passover ended, the Feast of Unleavened Bread started. That same evening. That's why it says immediately after Passover came the Feast of Unleavened Bread, because it's from evening to evening. I will break it down in just a minute. Let's keep going. Now, I'm going to show y'all how these Bible scholars, how they got this stuff sitting right here in our eyes, right here, plain sight, but we don't pay it no attention. Now, the reason I got this sitting up, because they got us thinking that Jesus, I'm going to say Jesus so people can understand me, they think Jesus died Friday and was risen Sunday. That's not true. And the reason I say that is because it has to be 3 days and 3 nights. But I want y'all to take note of how these Bible scholars know what the Sabbath day is. Now, when you look at Luke chapter 23, starting at verse 53 or 54, it says that day was the preparation and the Sabbath drew near. Now, mind you, they're trying to say that Friday was the preparation day and Saturday was the day that it drew near for him to be off the cross and buried. Okay, I'm going to explain all that in just a minute. But I want y'all to really pay attention to the notes down at that very bottom. What does it say preparation day and Sabbath day means? Preparation day literally means Friday, the day before the Sabbath. What day is after Friday? Saturday. So what day do they consider the Sabbath to be as well? Saturday. Even the Bible scholars know that Sabbath falls on a Saturday. Okay? Now I just want y'all to take note of that. Even the Bible scholars know that Saturday is the Sabbath. And they know, excuse me, y'all know I'm trying to fix my camera here. They know that Friday is the preparation day, meaning you need to, because Sabbath is a resting day. So Friday before sunset, before sunset hits on Friday, you need to prepare yourself. Make sure you cook, make sure you clean, make sure you do everything, because he wants you to get ready to observe the Sabbath. Because his days starts that evening before. So because Sabbath is on a Saturday, that means it's literally going to start that Friday evening, because he begins evening, sunset to sunset. So from Friday, excuse me again, from Friday evening to Saturday evening is literally considered the Sabbath. One whole day. Hear me very well. From Friday evening to Saturday evening, or you can say from Friday sunset to Saturday sunset is considered one whole day. So to him, that's the Sabbath. That's when his Sabbath starts. We know it's on a Saturday, but he starts it that evening before, which is Friday evening. So before Friday evening, you need to make sure you got everything prepped, cooked, whatever you need to do, because now it's going to be time, as soon as Friday evening hits, it's time to get ready to acknowledge the Sabbath day. And for one whole day, it's got to be from Friday evening to Saturday evening. I explained it to you all how his one-day timing looks. Now, with that being said, you look over to the left at Mark chapter 15, verses 42. It says so again. What the Sabbath is. Even though they're trying to say this is the time that this particular Sabbath he died and we buried him and he was resurrected. So from Friday to Sunday. No, it's not. This is not the particular preparation day, and this is not the particular Sabbath day that he died. It's 2 Sabbaths and 2 high days in this one particular event, and I'm gonna tell y'all that in just a minute. Right now I'm just showing you all how these Bible scholars even know when the Sabbath is. So when you look to the right, Mark chapter 15 says, now when evening had come, because it was the preparation day, that is the day before the Sabbath, you look down at the bottom. Says so right here again. Friday, the day before the Sabbath, which is Saturday. Again, fixing my camera. Even the Bible scholars know what day the Sabbath is. Even they know. We don't. Humanity don't, because they got us blindsided all this time. But even they know. Let's see here. I just realized it was lopsided. Alright, so let's keep going. Because we almost done. Alright. Now, let's get ready to understand this particular high Sabbath day. Because, again, yes, he was buried on a preparation day because the Sabbath drew near. But this particular preparation day is totally different from the Friday that we know of. Okay? John chapter 19 verses 30 through 31 says this. When Yahshua therefore had received the vinegar, he said, it is finished. And he bowed his head and gave up the ghost. The Jews therefore, because it was the preparation that the body should not remain upon the cross on the Sabbath day. Now we're going to explain why. For that Sabbath day was an high day. So it's letting you know that this particular Sabbath was a high day compared to the weekly Sabbath we're supposed to observe. John chapter 19 says so itself. Okay? Because it was the preparation that the body should not remain upon the cross on the Sabbath day, for that Sabbath day was a high day, besought Pilate that their legs might be broken and that they might be taken away. So they had to take this body down before evening, knowing that the sun was setting. But it was also a particular high day, a particular Sabbath high day that they were doing this on. Not the weekly Sabbath, not the Friday preparation day that we know to do on a weekly basis, but this one in particular was different from the weekly Friday preparation day and from the weekly Sabbath, which is Saturday. This was a high Sabbath. This one was observed annually. Okay? And they knew that before the sun set, they had to take these bodies down, including the two minions. Okay? But before we get started, let's footnote why these bodies had to be taken down before evening. Looking at Deuteronomy chapter 21 verses 22 through 23. Let's see if it's going to work for me here. Alright, so what does it say? It particularly says, if a man has excuse me, I'm sorry, it did its own thing here out the blue. Really? Let's close that. I don't know how that happened. But it says, if a man has committed a sin deserving of death, and he is put to death, and you hang him on a tree, his body shall not remain overnight on the tree, but you shall surely bury him that day, so that you do not defile the land which the Lord your God is giving you as an inheritance. For he who is hanged is accursed of God. So why is it that they have to take that body down off a tree? It didn't say a cross. I'm throwing it out there for a reason. They got hung on trees. They didn't get literally hung on crosses, but New Testament said it was crosses. Anyway, if a man has committed a sin deserving of death, and he is put to death, and you hang him on a tree, his body should not remain overnight on the tree. So by sunset, that body needs to be taken down. Why is that? Because it's an curse to the Father. Okay? And because his land that he is giving, because of the land he was giving his people is sacred and holy to him, yes, for those that are disobedient, they need to be punished. But by evening, before nightfall, pretty much sunset, their bodies need to be taken down. They need to be taken down. Now, with that being said, we need to look at Joshua chapter 8. Give me just a second. Because in Joshua chapter 8, it says the same thing. Give me just a second here. Joshua chapter 8, verse 29. So, of course, this is when Joshua goes in and they fight the Canaanites, because it's now time for them to take over the land. Moses is now gone, so Joshua is the leader. But it says so right here. And the king of Ai, he hanged on a tree until when? Until evening. As soon as the sun was down, Joshua commanded that they should take his corpse down from the tree, cast it at the entrance of the gate of the city, and raise over it a great heap of stones that remains to this day. So they already knew by law that once they killed people off or they murdered people off due to disobedience of the ones that Father Joshua told them to get rid of, they hung them on a tree to show that these were sinners or they were evil people or just due to disobedience. But the display had to be taken down when sunset. Evening, for some reason, Father is just about evening. Again, he created, and he said, and evening and morning was. He didn't say morning and evening. He said evening and morning was one day. Okay? So by sunset, they had to take the corpse down and get rid of it. It couldn't hang over the land. Not the sacred land, because it would be a curse to God, letting this disobedient or the sinner or whoever needed to be justified for their sins hang. So why do you think Father Joshua had to be taken down by sunset? Because it would be accursed. He had to be taken down, and the followers knew this. That's why when he died, they asked, or Joseph of Arimathea asked, "Hey, can I take these bodies down before sunset?" Of course, the Romans respected that law, their religious law, and they allowed them to do that. Okay, and of course we know how the story go. They had to break the bones on the other men, but they didn't have to break the bones on Joshua because he was already dead. All right, so with that being said, we can also look at where's that other one? I think it was Joshua chapter 10. Yep, Joshua chapter 10 verse 26. It's another one where when he fought the battles and displayed these evil people. And afterward, Joshua struck them and killed them and hanged them on 5 trees. So it must have been 5 people he killed. And they were hanging on the trees until when? Until evening. Again, I'm going to keep saying it. Father Joshua is the same today and forever. That's why his name is called the Great I Am. Because he doesn't change. He is the beginning and he is the ending. Okay? So going by that order, they had to do the same thing. By evening, they had to get the bodies taken off these trees or per se crosses, right? Now, when you look, and I'm going to show you again when you look back, again, it says this particular Sabbath day was different from the weekly Sabbath that Bible scholars used to justify that he was buried on Friday and risen on Sunday morning. So the Bible scholars, which I was trying to show you all, they're trying to say it was on that Friday was the preparation day, and the Sabbath drew near. They're trying to say it was Saturday that he was buried, or Friday he was buried, but they had to hurry up and get him in the tomb before the Sabbath, which is Saturday. But those particular high days is different from the weekly Friday and the weekly Saturday that they observe. Now, how do we know this? Because when you look at John chapter 19, verses 14 through 16, it says so. What does it say, Crystal? It says, and it was the preparation of the Passover, and about the 6th hour, and he saith unto the Jews, behold your king. But they cried out, away with him, crucify him. Pilate saith unto them, shall I crucify your king? The chief priests answered, we have no king but Caesar. Then delivered he him therefore unto them to be crucified. And they crucified, and they took Jesus and led him away. What is we saying? What day was this preparation or this high day taking place? During the Passover. That was the high day that he was crucified, died, and taken down. The Passover. The preparation of the Passover. That was that high day that was spoken of to the right. Not Friday and Saturday. Not them days. This happened before Friday and Saturday. I'm letting y'all know that now, but we'll talk about that too. The preparation of the Passover was when he was crucified and died. That was the high day. Not the day that the Bible scholars try to say was a Friday and they had to take him down and he was buried Friday and stayed in the grave Saturday and then rose again Sunday. No. There was 2 Sabbaths. That one right there, which was the preparation of the Passover, and then later on, the weekly Sabbath, which was Saturday. So this high day is pertaining to the preparation of the Passover when he was crucified. Okay? Why do we know that? Because it says after he was crucified, hanging on the cross, he gave up the ghost. And then the Jews knew because it was the preparation, this one right here, they had to take the body down before evening. Okay? So that lets you know that this high day is not pertaining to our weekly Sabbath. But how do we still know that? Let's keep going. Now, let's understand that the high Sabbath is the Passover that he was talking about, because it says so right here in Exodus chapter 12. Okay? It says, starting at verse 14, so this day shall be to you a memorial, and you shall keep it as a feast of the Lord throughout your generations. You shall keep it as a feast by an everlasting ordinance. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. That's where the feast of unleavened bread come in and lasts for 7 days. On the first day you shall remove leaven from your houses. For whoever eats leavened bread from the first day until the 7th day, that person shall be cut off from Israel. So again, the high day was Passover. As soon as Passover was over, that's when the feast of unleavened bread began. Verse 16, on the first day there shall be a holy convocation, and on the seventh day there shall be a holy convocation. So the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread and the last day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Those days out of the 7 days were considered holy convocations. What does he say? No manner of work shall be done on them. High Sabbath of solemn rest. So on the first day, you shall do no work. It's considered a high Sabbath. And on the last day, you shall do no work because it's considered a high Sabbath. What is Sabbath? A day of rest. A day that's set apart. We already know that the weekly Sabbath represents that because he created the earth. And within that 7th day, he rested. So again, he's about order. What are you observing? You're observing the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Why are you observing it? Because it's observing the times that you were brought out of the land of Egypt. You should do this as an everlasting ordinance. Okay? In the first month, what did he say the first month is considered as? Somewhere between March and April. I just explained it to you in a few slides ago. Somewhere between the months of March and April is the first month. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month at evening, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at evening. For 7 days they were supposed to eat bread. If they ate bread, it did not have to have, it should not have yeast or leaven in it. Okay, I'll eventually break down the holy days as time go along. But with this being said, he's telling them right here that this is an everlasting ordinance. This is something that goes on throughout your generations because I am the great I am. I don't change. Yahshua fulfilled it when he walked the earth, and it's still supposed to be fulfilled until the end of times. Period. Now, this is how we know that that Passover day that goes off into the Feast of Unleavened Bread is considered a high Sabbath. He tells us no manner of work shall be done on them. Because a Sabbath, you supposed to rest. Period. Friday evening and Saturday evening. That's the Sabbath, you rest. It's no different than these days that he had for the Passover off into the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Alright, let's keep going. Now, looking at Luke, we're looking at, again, to the left, how they tried to say it was Friday and Saturday, and it was not. No, it was. Those days were not his days that he was crucified and buried. Then you look in the middle at Luke chapter 24. It says, now on the first day of the week, very early in the morning, they and certain other women with them came to the tomb bringing the spices. We'll talk about that in just a minute. The first day of the week, we already know, if you know, what the first day of the week represents. It's on the calendar. You're not blind. It's sitting there. You're blinded in plain sight, but it's sitting there. What does the first day of the week represent? Look to the right of the screen at chapter 28, verse 1. What does it represent? It tells you so. Sabbath officially ended with sundown on Saturday. Bingo. Again, these Bible scholars, they knew when it started and when it began, and they knew what day the Sabbath was. At that time, the women could purchase and prepare spices after the Sabbath, after the sunset. The event described here occurred the next morning at dawn on Sunday, the first day of the week. What is the first day of the week biblically? Sunday. Not Monday, but Sunday. These women was preparing spices. When the sun set Friday after he died, they had to stop preparing those spices. When sun set Saturday evening, they was able to pick back up and prepare the spices to take to him the next morning to perfume his body. We already know about that story. What day is considered the first day of the week? Sunday. What day was officially the Sabbath? From Friday evening to Saturday evening. Once Saturday evening was done, the Sabbath was over. Once the sun set Saturday evening, it was over. So that goes to show that Father Yahshua did not die on no Friday. Father Yahshua died before that. Okay? He was already in the tomb. So he already died before Friday. He was already in the tomb. They was going to prepare to put the fragrances on him for Sunday. So he was already dead for at least 3 days and 3 nights. But what days was these 3 days and these 3 nights? Because it showed one from Friday to Sunday. From Friday afternoon to Sunday morning. That's not 3 days and 3 nights. Let's keep going. So again, we about to break it down. 3 days for 12 hours is 36 hours. 3 nights for 12 hours is 36 hours. That's 72 hours. He had to be in his tomb for 3 days and for 3 nights. So for 3 sunsets and for 3 sunrises. He had to be in his tomb. What does it say? It says, tradition says that he died on a Friday afternoon and rose again Sunday morning. But now using Father and Yahshua's timing, we know that does not add up like that. If you add it up correctly, from Friday afternoon to Saturday afternoon is 1 day. And then he rose Sunday morning? That ain't no 3 days and 3 nights. Come on. Let's get ready to break it down off a calendar. Now, I don't want y'all to pay attention to the year. I don't want you to pay attention to the month. I don't want you to pay attention to the dates. I want you to pay attention to the days of the week. Because now I'm getting ready to explain the 3 days and the 3 nights. Now, this is tradition. Tradition says the preparation day was Friday. He died on Friday and was buried Friday. So from Friday afternoon to Saturday afternoon, he stayed in the tomb. That's 1 day. You see that? Because remember I told y'all Father's timing is from sunset to sunset or either from sunrise to sunrise. That's a whole 24-hour cycle. So if that's the case, they're saying that Father Yahshua died Friday afternoon, stayed in the tomb from Friday afternoon to Saturday afternoon. Friday afternoon to Saturday afternoon is 1 day. And then the next day, which is Sunday morning, he rose. What happened to the 3 days and the 3 nights? That's not 3 days and 3 nights. They want you to think that because it's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday because of the way they look at timing. But that ain't Father Yahshua's timing. Saturday afternoon to Sunday morning does not even make up a day. It only makes up 1 day and a little bit of a morning time. So that is not the same timing that Father Yahshua has for his 3 days and his 3 nights. Now, understand, again, we was talking about the Passover and the high day and the preparation day. Passover evening began on Tuesday. So what does that mean? When Passover evening began, that's when trial began. So from Passover evening all the way to Wednesday, from Tuesday evening to Wednesday evening was Passover. Okay. Soon as Wednesday evening was over, that's when the Feast of Unleavened Bread picked up. So again, from Tuesday evening to Wednesday evening was Passover. As soon as Passover was over with, that's when the Feast of Unleavened Bread picked up. That was considered the high day, the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. So we already know somewhere after 3 o'clock that day, he died. Okay? So sometime the sun started setting. The sun started setting right here. From Passover to Passover, it's from Tuesday to Wednesday, Passover is done. Soon as Passover is done, Feast of Unleavened Bread picks up. Because again, from sunset to sunset, it's 1 day. So the Passover was from Tuesday evening to Wednesday evening. Okay, soon as sunset set, Passover over with, Feast of Unleavened Bread picks up. So that means Feast of Unleavened Bread lasted from Wednesday evening to Thursday evening. The first high day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. So that means after he died, he was on the tree or the cross for the Wednesday evening. By the time evening got there, that's when Joseph said we need to take these bodies down and bury them. Okay? Because they already knew by evening, it being a high day, they already knew it was time to bury him. This was the preparation day of the high day. It's time to bury him, sun setting in. Okay? So now, from Tuesday to, listen, I'm repeating it, from Tuesday evening to Wednesday evening was Passover. Okay? Because the Passover evening is over, it's evening time for the Feast of Unleavened Bread. This is right at when it's time for them to go on and take him down and bury him. Okay? So, from Wednesday to Thursday evening is the first day of unleavened bread, or the high Sabbath. What are you saying, Crystal? What I am saying is from Wednesday evening to Thursday evening after he died, he was buried. From Wednesday evening to Thursday. That's one day and one morning. From Thursday evening to Friday evening, that's one evening and one morning. From Friday evening to Saturday evening is 3 evenings and 3 mornings. Or 3 mornings and 3 evenings, however you want to put it. Either way, it's a 24-hour cycle. So if he stayed in that tomb for 3 days and 3 nights, that was from Wednesday to Thursday is day 1. Thursday to Friday, day 2. Friday to Saturday, day 3. So somewhere, Saturday evening, he arose out that tomb. Because he's about order. He died Wednesday evening. Okay? And rose Saturday evening because he's about order. That's the 72 hours. No less, no more. Strictly 72 hours. Okay? Again, from either sunset to sunset is a 24-hour cycle, or from sunrise to sunrise. Well, guess what? He died. He was buried that evening. So from Wednesday evening to Thursday evening, day 1. Thursday evening to Friday evening, day 2. Friday evening to Saturday evening, day 3, he arose. So Saturday evening, he arose sometime in that time frame. But of course, the women didn't know that. Because why? Right here, after this high Sabbath, okay, this preparation day, this high Sabbath was over with, here comes the weekly Sabbath, the preparation day. Because again, you need to prepare your day before Friday evening, because from Friday evening to Saturday evening is the weekly Sabbath. So there go the 2 Sabbaths in 1 week. Right here is the high Sabbath, and right here is the original weekly Sabbath. Preparation was right here due to the Passover coming to an end and jumping off into the high Sabbath. Okay, this Friday is the weekly preparation. One Friday evening sets, then you got the Friday evening to the Saturday evening, that's the weekly Sabbath. So, with that being said, by the time he was buried, they knew they couldn't do too much. Okay, they knew they couldn't do too much because he was buried on this preparation day. Because you don't forget, you have to rest on the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. So they couldn't do nothing right here from Wednesday to Thursday evening. And then Thursday to Friday evening, they most likely probably went to the store and prepared the spices. But when Friday evening got there, they probably really couldn't, they couldn't do nothing because the sun was setting. So somewhere in between that time, they prepared some spices. So they bought the spices, they just couldn't prepare them, or however it go. All right. So now that Friday evening is here, sunset, Friday sunset, Saturday sunset, weekly Sabbath, sunset over with on Saturday evening. So now they're finishing preparing their spices to take to the tomb for Sunday. What did that Bible scripture say? On the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene and certain other women went to the tomb to get ready to put these spices on him. They don't know when he literally risen because of the Bible, we're thinking he rose on Sunday because when they got there early Sunday morning, he was gone. No, he was already out that tomb Saturday evening. But the women didn't know that because they didn't go to the tomb until the first day of the week, which was Sunday. Look at the calendar. It's sitting there. Sunday is the first day of the week. Even in man-made terms, because people want to say, well, you don't know that. It's right there. Even the Bible scholars say that too. Sunday is the first day of the week. Saturday is the last day, which is Sabbath, which is Saturday. Last day. Genesis spoken of it. So, Crystal, what are you saying? I'm saying, look at what I just said. Day 1 was from Wednesday evening to Thursday evening. Day 2 was from Thursday evening to Friday evening. Day 3 was from Friday evening to Saturday evening. Soon as Saturday evening set, he rose. He did not raise up on no Sunday. He rose on Saturday evening, but they went to his tomb early Sunday morning, which to us in our mindset is somewhere between 5 and 6 o'clock in the morning, and he was no longer there. So because it's written that way, and Bible scholars got it written and translated that way, we're thinking it was Sunday when he rose, and counting the Roman time, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's 3 days. So he must have died on Friday, was buried on Friday, and rose on Sunday. Nope. That is so false. So why are we celebrating Easter again? Good question. You don't supposed to. You're only supposed to annually celebrate him during Passover time through the months of somewhere between the months of March and April. And that's for Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. It has nothing to do with no Easter. It has nothing to do with no communion every fourth Sunday neither. And it sure don't have nothing to do with no Sunday. Because he didn't die on the Friday and rose on the Sunday. He died on a Wednesday evening and rose on a Saturday evening. Period. And by the way, the first day of the week is literally considered Sunday for some people who still want to deny that. But in the Bible it says so because even the Bible scholars know that. But again, they have it hidden in plain sight because they know people ain't going to pay attention. So, should Easter be celebrated? Nope. Easter is a man-made holiday full of paganism. What we should be celebrating right about now between the months of March and April, whether it's March the 14th or April the 14th, whichever month it is, or whichever month it is, it's supposed to be the 14th of that month, whether it's in March or April. Okay, that part I'm still learning, but we do know between the months of March and April is his Passover, which is the 14th, and then the next day starts the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is the high day, the Sabbath high day, because you do no work on that first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and you do no work on the last day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Okay? So, again, his days are set from sunset to sunset. That's a 24-hour cycle. Or either from sunrise to sunrise is a 24-hour cycle. But we know Joshua looks at it from sunset to sunset. He says so in his book, in Genesis, and in even some of his other passages about his Passover starting in the evening. The people taking people down off the crosses by sunset. And even how he said his creation started as one day. Evening was and morning was one day. Easter is a tradition, paganistic religion. We should not be celebrating Easter, you all. This is the Passover time and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And again, holy days will soon be discussed and broken down when Father Joshua is ready for me to do a presentation on that as well. Until then, you all stay blessed. Shalom.